music in the next room, but not in here.
I'll come for you, and if you want to, I'll be the thing that you be. I'm not asking for love or redemption. I sell my guilt to your need. I'll breathe.
All right. Good morning, Austin. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm Jeff D. Our co-host is Martin Wagner, and our guest today, Russell Glasser. I'm sure we're getting awfully familiar to those of you who watch the show regularly. The Atheist Experience is brought to you by the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings every Sunday morning at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop, 307 West 5th Street at 10:30 a.m., right after this show, except for the first Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series at 11 a.m. in the Longhorn Room of Furs Cafeteria at North Cross Mall. The next lecture will be on September 3. The speaker will be Dr. William R. Coker of the Department of Physics, University of Texas at Austin. The tentative title of his lecture will be Fake Science, Anti-Science, and Ignored Science. In October, the speaker will be Ray Mooney of UT's Department of Computer Science, doing a talk on the subject of Artificial Intelligence Minds Without Mysticism. ACA board meetings take place at noon right after our regular meeting on the second Sunday of every month. These meetings are open to all ACA members, but you can only vote if you're on the board of directors. The next board meeting will be on September 10. The Godless Gamers meet every Monday night at the home of Vic Farrow at 7:30 p.m. For more information, you can call our voicemail at 371-2911 or visit our website at www.atheist-community.org. Morning, gents.
Morning.
Morning.
That is the opening info. Our regularly scheduled guest has not shown up, so Russell has been kind enough to step in.
Stepping up to the plate.
And so you'll just be joining us in answering calls and things today. And
pretty much, although I do have this Bible quiz that you gave me. And
yeah.
What I thought is maybe we could get some callers who want to call just to take a question in the Bible quiz.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Bible quiz. It's a Bible punishment quiz.
Right.
The questions have to do with various illegal things according to the Bible and what the appropriate punishment would be. You get the punishment right, and we go yay.
Prove you're a true Christian.
Yeah.
Or at least have read that damn book.
Yeah, righto.
Got any news?
I've got a little bit of news, guys. Good morning, everybody. Here is the news for August the 20th. Once again, more wackiness going on in Chicago with the Ten Commandments. The Chicago public school officials are giving their blessing, to religious groups that are distributing Ten Commandments book covers to students, as long as the groups stay off school property and give the material only to children who want it. I am enthusiastically supportive, Chicago Public Schools CEO Paul Vallis said on August the 18th, or the 16th actually, according to when this was printed, the day the distributions began outside an elementary school. Quote, I view the Ten Commandments as history's value statements. They're certainly universally accepted. Two more ignorant sentences could not be uttered in sequence by a living human being, I don't think.
Then he's a school CEO.
So can I be on camera one, or what's going on there? Or, okay. Anyway, Vallis did not attend a news conference to announce the book covers, instead sending Deputy Chief of Staff Wilfredo De Jesus. This is just all full of these weird little Freudian subtextual things. Let me see. And let's see. The endorsement has drawn criticism, of course, as a violation of the separation of church and state.
Of course.
Yes. People talk about separating church and state, but separating these two, it's not working, said Jay Granato, an alderman whose district includes a neighborhood where 2 young people have been killed this summer. Reverend Barry Lynn, Executive Director of Americans United for Separation of Church and State, said he has no problem with the distribution of the book covers, which he said is no different than the Gideons handing out Bibles off school grounds. But, he said, the school district should be rigidly neutral on the book covers. He says it has no business taking a position on whether the Ten Commandments or any other religious document is good, bad, or indifferent. Vallis encountered, quote, "That's the problem. Schools have become too rigidly neutral. What in the world is wrong with thou shalt not kill or thou shalt not steal?"
Those aren't the ones
Yeah.
we're objecting to.
Those are fine. It's the first four that, aren't...
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're encouraging little kids to carry around book covers that tell their friends who are of other religions that they are in violation of some kind of absolute law.
They've got the wrong religion.
You can't do that. The government can't do that. You can do that.
No, this
kids
is not
can do that on their own.
This is not a government-sponsored thing, which is why they're getting away with it.
Well, but Barry Lynn's objection is to the strong endorsement that it's getting from the school district, which is a government body and cannot be taking a position.
Taking a position on that, right? Anyway, a few blocks away from the news conference, bakery owner Zenaida Lopez said Vallis should be concentrating on education, not religion. Quote, "That's not going to stop crime or make them better students or people," Lopez said after seeing one of the book covers. "How about this? Give us better teachers." So, there you go. And once again, it's this excuse, it's Christianity really just sort of coldly exploiting, just all, school crime, the murders that have been going on and shootings.
And what did that guy say? Who objects to "thou shalt not kill" or what?
Vallis is the Chicago Public Schools CEO,
but what did he say specifically?
Well, he said schools have become too rigidly neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah. What in the world is wrong with "thou shalt not kill" or "thou shalt not steal"?
And that's exactly the point. If it's so obvious that there's nothing wrong with those particular commandments, then we don't need to go slapping the 10 Commandments all over everything.
Yeah.
Right? The only reason to put them up is if they were controversial, right? If there was a need because people didn't agree with them.
Well, his position, of course, is that if you don't want the 10 Commandments up, then you must not agree with them in some weird way. That's not what it's all about. I mean, anyway,
it's kind of like those bills that go through Congress, and like part of them is really good, but they get attached to something that's
really
utterly
stupid,
ridiculous.
Yeah, like the Federal Telecommunications
so the whole bill
Act
gets wiped out.
Yeah,
right.
Or passed.
Or the dumb thing passes.
Yeah, right.
Like you had the Federal Telecommunications Act, which had the Communications Decency Act sort of slipped into it. And that was passed by our supposedly more liberal Democratic presidents, who also encouraged like fee chips and all that kind of nonsense. So anyway, so this is just more rigmarole. But once again, this just really, really bugged me. It's this part. Let me just skip down to where it's at. Does not disclose, personal reminder. Oh, too many people have been... here's something funny. The covers have the 10 Commandments from, quote, "only worship the one true God," to, quote, "do not murder," on one side, and inspirational quotes from such figures as Oprah Winfrey.
Major spiritual leader Oprah Winfrey.
Mark Twain, the atheist.
What did Mark Twain say?
It doesn't give it doesn't say what the quotes are. These are just Michael Jordan.
Find these things on the
other side. So really weird.
Used.
Okay. Anyway, on to more interesting news. Wackiness going on in Rome. Apparently there's this big sort of major Catholic orgy thing happening over there. Rome's population, depleted by the summer vacation, ballooned today, Friday, August 18th, as young people from around the world continue to converge on the capital for the Roman Catholic Church's Youth Jamboree. Church officials said nearly 1 million people had arrived. Participants in what has been called a, quote, "Catholic Woodstock" danced in the streets, waded in the fountains, and sought forgiveness for their sins. I wonder if that is forgiveness for dancing in the streets and wading in the fountains.
Together.
Yeah, under the sun at an ancient site functioning temporarily as the world's largest confessional box. The Italian media have dubbed the army of young people Papa Boys and Papa Girls.
Committed? Just shout them out.
It's like one of those college student stunts where they all see how many can pile.
Yeah, they pile into the phone, telephone booth or something. Anyway, they're called...
Okay, now we want only adulterers this time.
Okay, in Italy, come on.
And only male adulterers. And then only female adulterers, because we get male and female adulterers.
And then according to biblical Mosaic law, the male adulterers get a fine, and then the female adulterers get stoned to death or something. So that's... Anyway, if I'm right on that...
We have a question about that on our Bible quiz.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I already gave one away. Darn it! When I do that. Anyway, so there's just all kinds of youths walked the streets wearing blue t-shirts with the festival's logo and singing religious songs, or Bob Dylan's "Blowin' in the Wind" in dozens of languages. Events have included prayer services, street corner testimonials, and mingling at one church's Little Planet Cafe. All right. Okay. And
It's the blood of Christ. No, really.
yeah. Heavenly Starbucks. All right. And finally, UK scientists are encouraging a form of human cloning. They say a panel of British experts, told the British government Wednesday. Scientists should be able to carry out a limited form of human cloning. A final decision on the issue will be left to a government vote, but ministers have endorsed the recommendations put forward by the chief medical officer in England, Liam Donaldson. If given final approval, the technology could lead to cures for some diseases, but some pro-life and religious groups are firmly against using the technique. They call it an affront to the sanctity of human life.
Yeah,
That's
it's
nice
important that we preserve the sanctity of human life
Yeah.
by refraining from curing some horrible diseases.
Yeah.
Right. That's very important because we have no respect for human life if we go around curing diseases all the time.
Yeah. Oh, we could go on and on about that. Like how most of the pro-life, like anti-abortion people are also like pro-gun and pro-death penalty.
Yeah.
I guess it's all in the timing.
How pro-life is gun ownership?
Yeah.
I mean, apart from hunting.
Yeah. Anyway, so-called therapeutic cloning is very controversial as it involves the extraction of cells from embryos. Those cells are then used to grow skin and other tissues. Donaldson's group told the government the technology was worthy of investigation but should be carefully controlled. He said his panel weighed the pros and cons and the potential benefits to humanity outweighed any concerns they had.
There you go.
Yeah, if the legislation is approved, the British government would be the first to allow publicly funded cloning of human embryo cells.
And when they do it, we're going to have to do it because otherwise we're going to fall behind technologically, and we can't be doing that.
Yeah, although we probably will anyway. So, and just finally, this isn't really a news article. This is just something that I encountered last night. I was channel surfing, hit TBN once again, and they were showing the Michael English show.
Who?
Now, Michael English, it's just interesting. Michael English is just one of these like Christian pop singers, right?
Oh.
And I printed this, this was a couple months ago, I think back in June. I printed it out to read as a news article, then never brought it because something more like important came up. But Michael English in June was indicted on federal drug charges. He's already been something of a figure of controversy because a few years, I think in the early to mid 90s, he admitted to having like an extramarital affair with one of his backup singers, and now he's been indicted on I think like many like a couple dozen federal drug charges. So it's amusing that so once again this whole idea the Christians say that you can't be a moral person unless you belong to our God's fan club.
Well,
It's
in fairness,
just funny to me.
I know a lot of Christians denounce the whole concept of Christian rock music.
No, well, sure.
Right.
It's because they were involved in rock music.
Because in order to be consistent, they need to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
Yeah, but it's here's TBN, which is the most staunchly and stridently fundamentalist. Then they've got like on Saturday nights, it's their big rock video night for all their youth programming comes on, where you've got this like hardcore, like Christian rap and.
Well, that big thing, the big Catholic gathering thing was a youth gathering.
Yeah. Well, but this is
No, I'm just saying there's a big push to indoctrinate as many children as possible.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting.
Oh boy. Did you guys cover last week the recent survey which showed that of all the various possible religious beliefs that the survey asked about, people were less likely to vote for an atheist president than any other type of religion?
No, have you
but
seen or heard of the survey?
That's not surprising.
I didn't actually bring the information in, but yeah, it isn't a big surprise, but there it is, in black and white.
Yes, I think something
people
like
are biased,
46%
unfairly
of people
biased
say they would
against
disqualify
atheists.
a candidate just for being an atheist.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, we're being asked to take a call.
Okay.
Shall we go ahead?
Oh, what the heck.
All right.
Hopefully we'll be able to hear him.
Are you there?
Hello, Ian.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello?
I'm not getting Ian on line one.
Hello?
I'm getting nothing.
Hello?
Yeah, there's our...
Hello?
Keep
Hello?
talking.
Ian, if you're there, hang on, please.
Are you there? Hello?
No, I'm not getting a red light on line one at all. Does that mean...
Wait.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, Ian.
Almost.
Hey.
Just little technical problems at the start of the show. Can you hear us?
Usual.
Yeah. Oh, wait, there he is.
Yeah, we have some feedback, but go ahead, Ian. What can we do for you?
I was
And we lost him again.
See, this is me. At the beginning of it, before every show comes on, I'm like, do the phones work? And I get this big resounding
We tried
yes.
this. We tried this.
And I always get a big resounding, yes, they work today. It's all fixed. And so we're just gonna...
What are we doing, guys? I need some feedback from the control room. What do I do?
We were getting feedback.
Shall we?
Can you hear me?
All right. I'm
the wrong
going to
kind of
put
feedback.
Ian on hold until I hear from the control room that it's safe to proceed. What?
I can't fix it if he's on hold. He's got to talk.
Well, he's gone now. The green light is off, so he's gone, right?
Okay, we'll go to
we will
Lloyd.
Release line 1 and
Sorry.
go to Lloyd.
Hello.
Hi, Lloyd.
Hi.
Hi, what can we do for you?
I was just watching your program on the TV.
Uh-huh.
I would like to know what you believe.
What we believe?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all kinds of things. What the show is about is we don't believe in any gods.
You don't believe in any God, sir?
Right.
How come?
Well, because there's no good reason to. And it's kind of silly to believe stuff that there's no good reason to believe.
It's kind of silly
Yeah.
to believe that there's a creator who created us all.
Hey, and
Well, if there's no evidence that there's a creator who created us all, then yeah. I mean, it's as silly to believe that there's a creator who created us all if there's no evidence as it would be to believe that,
oh, I'm not going to bring it up.
I'd have to come up with an example. But that's my point. There is no evidence that there's a God, so we're going to not believe it. I mean, that seems pretty obvious.
Until we get such evidence.
Okay, let me ask this question.
Okay?
Do you believe that the plants, the birds, the beasts, all animal life, the season that comes and go in their order
I
of
was going to say
cycle,
random chance.
everything just came out of non-existence?
Okay.
That's a little overly simplistic.
Yeah, there are. I understand what the current prevailing theories about the origin of the universe are. Okay, and as far as I know, scientists are still working on that. So I don't have a real strong belief in any particular explanation. I am waiting for there to be discoveries that make it really clear. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, if you're asking that did the order in the universe arise from the interaction of natural law alone, then my answer is yes.
You want to tell me that the sun, the moon, and the stars, the 12 months that comes and go, the rain that falls when it feels to fall that you cannot control, the lightning that flashes that
Are you reading me a poem?
Yeah, I mean, what?
Okay, we'll have no poetry on our show.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All of these things.
What's your point?
I'm asking you natural questions about God.
Natural questions
You're
about
trying
God.
to get away from
Okay, here's a natural question about God. Show us some evidence that he exists.
What about a bolt of lightning that flashes?
What about it? What about it?
Make it?
I'm sorry?
Can you make it?
I
We
can't
can
make...
generate. Sure, we can generate lightning in laboratories. Sure, of course we can.
Yeah, that's electricity.
And
Sir,
yeah,
I know you can generate a little thing in the laboratory.
yeah,
I have been near a tree where a bolt of lightning comes out of the skies,
and
Right.
crashes into that tree,
And so what?
consume it, split it up.
and
And?
I have not seen any force on earth that can stop a bolt of lightning.
Yeah.
oh, you're not looking very hard.
Yeah.
The reason why we can make even little ones in a laboratory, and of course we can make big ones if we get bigger laboratories, is because lightning comes from the interaction of natural laws, and we just take advantage of those in laboratories to generate
Okay.
electrical
Sir,
sparks.
you
Okay?
can-
There's no need for any supernatural force to intervene to cause that to happen. Natural law covers it.
Sir, if you'd like, I can suggest something to you. If you'd like to know how lightning works, you could probably call any of the TV stations in town and talk to their weatherman, their meteorologist.
Sir.
There's a whole science called meteorology that explains how these things happen.
Sir,
Yes.
I know all that the people say is heat and cold, negative and positive.
Okay.
It's crap.
Oh, okay.
I know it.
Well, fine. So you're rejecting science in general.
Sir.
Everything is magical and it comes from your giant space pixie.
Science cannot account for how you were born with your mother and father.
Yes, it
Sure
can.
it can. In fact, it does.
Are you familiar with like the sperm meeting the ovum and the genes mixing?
Yeah, there's genetics and...
I'm sorry you missed this when you were a child. Okay, when a man and
It's
a
all
woman,
explained.
when mommy and daddy love each other very much,
Sure.
To be
okay,
Sir.
daddy gives mommy a seed.
Yeah.
Okay, this is well understood. Have you ever gotten laid? Okay, we know how it happens.
All right, Martin, that was uncalled
What
for.
about people who have sex every day and they still want a child and can't have a child?
Okay.
And?
So why isn't your magical, wonderful God giving you the ability to have a child?
Because God make a given entity reaches a woman before conception, and if He doesn't give a child to nobody, you don't get one.
What?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's all,
What?
it's all physics and chemistry, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sir,
Yes.
I don't know, but you know,
Well, that's
obvious.
that's
and
the first-
rejecting science is not a good way to start finding out.
Yeah, that's the first correct thing
Thank you
you've
very
said.
much for your call. I think we better move on. Thank you, Lloyd.
that's how you laugh at people, hey?
Well, we laugh at people who don't know what they're talking
All right.
about.
You want to stay on for a few more minutes? We'll beat you up some
I
more.
heard you laughing at Oprah Winfrey. That's why I tried to call.
Yeah, because
Yeah, Oprah Winfrey is an idiot.
yeah, she's a
Of course
nitwit.
we laugh at her.
She's an idiot
She's been put on these Christian book covers, on these Ten Commandments book covers, as if she's some kind of like major religious teacher.
So you believe
okay?
that's racism?
And they also put Mark Twain, a quote from Mark Twain on their Ten Commandments book covers, and he was an atheist.
So you believe that racism is right in the world that you live in?
Racism has nothing to do with it.
So how-
There are
why-
white morons and there are black morons.
No, why anything that a certain set of people say is right, but anything that black
No,
people
it's
say is
nothing to
wrong?
do with their color, dude. Where do you get that from?
Where are you getting on this from?
Because I hear you laughing at
Rush Limbaugh is also an idiot. Does that make you happy? Rush Limbaugh is like the whitest guy in the universe. He's an idiot.
Yeah.
We're not picking on people because of their race.
Yeah. This whole idea that, you know, magic is what you have to explain things you don't understand, that's what we're making fun of.
Anything else?
So God is magic.
Well, is he certainly doesn't fall into the realm of science. He just rejected all of science 5 minutes ago.
Well, the only thing that I would tell you, sir,
Yeah?
when the time comes for you to die,
Yeah?
don't die, since there is no God. When God is snatching His breath of life out of that body of yours, that laughs at everything.
Breath
don't
of
die.
life. Are you
Here
telling
for-
me you believe that
No,
there's a supernatural
live
force
here
that makes
for
us be
1,000
alive?
years. Control your life genes and live for 1,000 years. You
There are
idiots
scientists
that call
working on that,
people morons.
sir.
Yeah.
There are scientists working on that, and I hope that when they crack that particular puzzle and human lifespan is extended indefinitely, I hope that you will reject science to the point where
Well, I am
you'll decline to use
I
it.
am uneducated. Read the Bible. That will never happen.
What's he talking about?
Oh man, I'm sorry, sir. That's completely loony.
Say anything you want to say, because you don't believe in a God.
Well, sure. You can say anything you
But
want to
it-
say because you do believe in a God. That's
God
whether
that
we're saying what we
created
want to say
you.
is
It is God
not
that
relevant. The
created
question
food that
is does what we say make any sense?
The water
And
that
what
you
you
drink is
say
God.
doesn't make any sense.
Why? You mean there is no water on the earth?
I can't.
There is no food that you eat?
What does that
Yeah,
have
there
to
is.
do?
So what?
What does that have to
It's
do?
exactly what you would expect to find on a planet where life arose by natural processes and evolved.
So
That's
water
exactly
come
what you would
by-
expect to
water
find.
come by, but water just come by just by being here.
I-
And
Yeah,
it
but
will float
you
around
need
in space
you need
just by
you need to
being
learn
floating around.
just the tiniest starting bit of science so we can even have a conversation.
We're
with
talking
you.
about 8th grade physics, sir. Okay.
You're talking about what?
This is 8th grade level physics.
Yeah, what?
If you
I'm just curious.
Man, you
What
don't
education
understand
do
what
you
I
have, sir?
rode to the 8th temple. I have climbed the mountain. You're not talking to me.
What? All right. Thanks very much for your call. That's-
He's not even
You're just a psycho.
He's not even speaking coherent English.
all right, we're going to try Ian again. Hello, Ian.
Hey, the brainwashing sure worked on that guy.
Man, what's his deal?
I don't know, man. You know, I don't think there's any shame in being ignorant, but it shouldn't be a source of pride. Yeah. It's, you know, you try to make your own ignorance a source of pride, and that's just
over
pathetic.
The main argument or point that you're trying to make by just dismissing.
Yeah.
But my point was going to be that to me, Christianity today is just like, it's a mentality that people get. I mean, like those Indians that worked for the cavalry, whatever, or, you know, the Vichy government when the Nazis were in power. It's like whoever's, you know, the biggest team or the team that's winning, that's the one they want to be on. And like the politicians have to be so religious to get elected.
There does seem to be a lot of that going around, yeah.
And it just seems like, and the mentality of like a lot of policemen are, just cops because they can, walk into a room and think that nobody can beat them up or whatever. It's like, they're the biggest bully in the playground. Or
Yeah.
I agree with that general assessment. Sorry,
Ask
Russell.
that last guy.
Yeah.
That's
Bible, that he would have been such a good
But
candidate.
Ian, would you like to take
I
a
like the
question
show.
from the Bible?
You guys keep it up.
Well, appreciate
Would you like to take a question on our Bible
Bible
punishment
quiz.
quiz?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay,
Pick one.
number one. What punishment did God say is mandatory for an unruly child? These are all multiple
Unruly
choice.
child, how do you punish
I
him?
watch the show. I know that one.
Is it A, none, because God is loving and forgiving and does not believe in punishing children?
Stoned to death.
No, there you go.
Stoned to death.
Is
Didn't even have to
C,
read the
stoned
list.
to death.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your call, Ian.
All right.
All right, bye-bye.
Calls next time.
Let's go to Brian.
Ryan.
Brian?
Yeah.
This is not Brian of
Brian.
Nazareth, is it?
Man, I want to know, when y'all were younger, have y'all ever been to church or prayed before?
Yes, I was raised Methodist.
I was Jewish.
All right, who were
He
you
was
praying
Jewish,
to?
or how were you raised?
I was raised
Baptist, right?
I was raised Baptist, yes.
When
Yeah.
you prayed, who'd you pray to?
Well, that would have been the God of that religion.
At that age, we were Christian.
So
and
you
we
do
were-
believe in God,
No.
We did at one
We
point.
did
when
at one
were-
point and don't now.
but did you believe then?
Yeah.
Because
Not
that's
really.
I was told to believe. I mean, I was a young child, vulnerable, and I had authority figures telling me this is what you're supposed to believe and don't question it.
Right.
So yeah, when you're young and you're a child and you haven't developed skepticism or the skill at thinking critically, sure, you're going to believe what mom and dad and your
All right, whatever. Do you believe the body has a soul?
No.
no,
Nope.
we don't.
Not in any spiritual sense. There are ways you can use that word soul that don't refer to anything supernatural, and that, sure, I would agree. I mean, if you just talk about human nature or human tendencies towards certain emotional responses, sure, of course you've got that, but that's not supernatural.
Whatever.
I'm sorry, are we not giving you the stock answers you're expecting?
Yeah. Hey, like, I mean, if
Anyway, like y'all were talking about science earlier and how science explains everything.
Yeah. Well,
not
it
everything.
explains
Explain
a
shit.
whole lot more than religion does.
Science does not explain shit. You can learn a lot more from the Bible.
Not language,
Played
sir.
what?
I believe he said the S word. We can't. Please watch your language.
Why, y'all are atheists. Y'all don't give a fuck anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, as a matter of fact, we
Bye.
do, and you know why? The reason
You
why
just
we.
dropped Cindy.
I'm sorry, Cindy. I kicked you by accident. The reason why we care, Brian, and we've removed you from the air so you won't use your profanity anymore, is because there are rules here, right?
Yeah.
Human rules made by human beings, and they apply here at this studio where we are being graciously allowed to put on our show along with everybody else in the general public who comes down here and reserves airtime and takes the classes.
Yeah.
And they have rules, and one of those rules is that you don't go with the profanity, okay?
Yeah.
And that's perfectly valid. Human being, in the absence of a divine lawgiver, human beings make the rules, and we make them for our own reasons, and that's perfectly valid.
and it's obvious that he's so much more moral than we are.
Okay, I hope
Because
we
he's
got
willing
some-
to spout this kind
I
of
see some more
language.
callers on the line. I hope we got Cindy back.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
sorry about kicking you. That was an accident.
Yeah.
I was kind of in a
Take
rush
Will.
because there are rules here, and we live by the rules.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with Will on line 4. Will?
Morning, Jeff.
Morning.
Morning.
I was listening to that other guy, and he didn't sound too intelligent, really, in the way he was speaking, but I think he had a good point.
Okay. What was that point?
Well, the point is that most things in this universe that I know of are not constructive; they're destructive. If you think of the way the natural order goes, generally things go from an ordered sense that we put together, and then eventually it crumbles.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is the second law of thermodynamics
Thermodynamics.
argument. There's a principle in science called the second law of thermodynamics, which says that the general tendency is from ordered states to disordered states, and that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Now wait, the problem is that applies to closed systems.
Right.
Okay, that does not. That you can get order if you have additional energy being injected into a system, and we have the sun. The sun adds additional energy to the surface of our planet, and that is used by chemical processes to cause chemical reactions that build things up because of the influx of energy.
Right.
So
I
the second law of thermodynamics does not apply.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't apply in the sense that you want it to.
It doesn't apply to the Earth.
Yeah.
I understand what you're trying to say. It just seems to me, I mean, and I don't discriminate against anyone's personal beliefs, so don't get me wrong.
Would you vote for an openly atheist presidential candidate?
Absolutely, if I thought he was the best man for the job.
Thank you.
Good for you.
All right. Well,
But
that's my litmus test for whether people who claim to be unbiased really are.
right. Well, I reached that same point that I grew up Christian, and I reached that same point you did, where you probably decided that you were an atheist, and just the miracle of life itself and how big this universe is. I find it almost impossible to believe that things like that just happen over millions of years.
Okay.
I understand the science behind it.
Couple of things, though.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, there's a difference between just deciding you don't care about your religion anymore and ignoring it, okay, and thinking deeply about these questions and coming to the conclusion that there's really no good reason to believe.
Well, it was.
Okay, and I just want to clarify that whenever we get a caller who says, "Yeah, I used to be an atheist, but I got better."
I used to be an atheist. Don't get me wrong.
You what?
I never said I used to be an atheist.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
What I said is.
My second response is, how is it a miracle that the universe is so big? Do you think that essentially we're here because this God you believe in created the Earth specifically for human beings specifically?
I consider most things that find really difficult to explain. Like the Big Bang Theory, for instance, how everything in this universe is compressed down into one infinitely small piece of matter.
But I'm asking a very specific question.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Do you think essentially the universe is here because your God wanted to create human beings?
Wow. No.
You don't? Okay. Well, that's fine. Because a lot of Christians do. And then, of course, my follow-up question is, how does a gigantic, huge universe that we can never possibly take advantage of
I wouldn't say that.
constitute a miracle? All right. I know. Whoa, what's that? They're having fun in the control room. Okay, so go ahead, Will.
Vicky Moore.
I'm not going to sit here arguing with points you're not making. Go ahead.
Right. I wouldn't say that the human race isn't capable of populating the entire universe. I mean.
No, I would. I mean, there's some real hard physical laws which will prevent that.
Right now, with our technology, it is. I mean, who knows how long the human.
There's a light speed limit that it looks like it's going to be pretty hard to crack.
Well, at this point, I mean, if you would have explained TV to someone, 10,000 years ago.
Well, fair enough. Maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
in any case.
Vic, are you bored in there?
Yeah. Stop doing that. Will's trying to make a point here. Go ahead, Will.
Well, actually, I forgot what my point was.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Good one, Vic. Yeah. All right, you're throwing the
Will,
colors
would you like to take the Bible quiz?
Yeah. I mean, atheists are not at all immune from that sense of wonder at looking at things in the universe around us and going, whoa!
Well,
we're not immune to that. But what we do, right, is we refrain from believing in things before there's darn good evidence to show that that's probably true. And the thing is, the explanation to a gigantic universe could be anything, right? So to assume that it must be a God, right, is a very specific kind of thing. Out of this huge range of all the explanations it might be, to pick that one and go with it and have faith that is the answer.
But
is really pretty silly.
Is it hard to believe that it would be someone, a higher power, not necessarily a God, I don't want to say that, but someone that has infinitely more technology than we do, or more knowledge, and is able to actually create something like that?
Well, the problem there, of course, is that doesn't necessarily, as you just admitted, lead you to a God. One of the problems with teleological and analogical creationism is that the answer that it hopes to provide to these questions isn't necessarily the answer that you get. You're right. I mean, if you want to look at the creationist arguments as a possibility for all of this, You could just as easily say it was the Christian God as you could say it was just some sort of amazingly technologically advanced race of aliens, like in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Or
that is
it
controlling
could be
everything.
computers making a virtual reality.
Well,
for
yeah.
us,
And
like
the
in
thing is,
Matrix.
and I have an additional response to this, okay? And it's two things. One, if the universe looks incredibly huge and amazing, right? Imagining a more incredibly huge, more amazing thing to explain the first one doesn't answer any questions, right? In fact, you're then making up something that's more amazing than the thing that you actually see that amazes you. Okay, and that's
exactly
just
right.
that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Second, if it was aliens, right? If it was aliens, then there's what is it? Clark's law. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah.
The science fiction author once said. But what he meant by that was not that there's magic. What he meant was that from our perspective,
It looks like magic.
it might
but
look
is
like
totally
magic, but
explainable.
then it wouldn't be. If it's space aliens, it's not magic. It's not supernatural. It's again physical laws.
Well,
okay, it's whatever their physical laws are, and that doesn't answer anything, because then you got a whole new universe where they live with its natural laws, which is even more amazing than ours, or at least as amazing. Where did that come from? It also doesn't answer any
Well,
questions.
I know originally what my point was, now that I recall it now.
Okay.
What my original point was is God and the universe and the Big Bang Theory and all these other things that we've proved with science, they don't necessarily, in my opinion, have to counteract each other. I think all of this that can be explained by science still could have been caused by a higher power.
Well, maybe, but again,
There's no
until it's
proof,
proven that it
I understand.
is,
There's
it's
no
pretty
proof.
silly to believe that it is.
Excuse me?
That's our point, huh?
Right. There's no proof that it is.
So it's pretty silly to believe that right now.
Yeah,
right.
And just because you decline to believe in something doesn't mean you have to absolutely rule it out.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of us say that it would take very little to stop being atheists. Some rearranging of the
miracle.
stars
One
to say,
miracle,
"Hey, I'm up
probably.
here, stupid." Something along those lines.
Yeah, it wouldn't. I mean, it's
Whether we would then worship that being is a whole other
That's
question.
another matter.
But to get us
Right.
to believe that it existed wouldn't necessarily be that hard, particularly for a being that's supposed to be like
Right.
omnipotent.
Right.
Okay.
And that's good. I'm glad that you respect that. That shows that that it gives you it puts a good face on your beliefs. So
Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks for
go
your
ahead
call,
and
Will.
do that Bible quiz and then
Okay, give him a
Oh,
Bible
okay.
quiz.
okay.
What is God's punishment of those who overeat? A, none, because God does not believe people should be punished for overeating. B, death by plague. C, health problems caused by obesity. Or D, depression and feelings of guilt.
well, I'd say that would be both C and D.
You would say that, but the correct answer is B, death by plague. Because according to Psalm 78:31, the wrath of God came upon them and slew the fattest of them and smote down the chosen men of Israel. Numbers 11:32 through 33. And the people stood up all day and all that night and all the next day, and they gathered the quails, and he that gathered least gathered 10 homers, yada yada yada. And the wrath of the Lord was kindled against the people, and the Lord smote the people with a very great plague.
For eating too many quails.
Right.
Oh, hey, one more thing I wanted to say before I go off is
Okay.
when people pick up on the phone, you're getting a lot of that feedback probably because they're not turning their television set down. So you
Yeah,
might just
That
want
could
to
be
tell
it
people
too.
that.
Yeah, there is another problem in the studio
Yeah,
there, too.
okay. There's
so
not some wiring
generally,
thing.
we assume it's our
Sometimes
fault.
it's the TV,
Because
so.
that's about how things go on this show.
right,
Thanks very
you
much
guys
for your
have-
call, Will.
You guys have a good day.
You too.
take care.
Bye-bye.
Before you go on to the next, to Cindy again, Will brought up a very interesting position at the beginning of his call, which is what I think Richard Dawkins refers to as the argument from personal incredulity. Okay, I just can't believe that blah blah blah. I just don't see how it's possible that the Big Bang and the universe was a small. I just can't understand. It just seems so unlikely that it's just so hard to fathom. All of these scientific concepts that we try to bring up, and people just think, oh, it's just
Math is hard.
Math is hard. It's this whole thing of, and Dawkins goes into, it's like, look, sure, a lot of things are hard to understand until you learn about them. So, all these
computers
callers
are extremely hard to understand for
I
people.
can't understand it is not an argument for people to stop believing the thing that I can't understand and start believing me.
Yeah.
It's just not. Let's go to Cindy, who has been
but it's clear that
very patiently waiting for her chance again.
Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. Cindy. Well, Cindy.
Hello.
Hi, Cindy. I'm so sorry about the delay. Go ahead.
That's okay. Hey, I think what you guys are saying is great, and my kids are, they were downstairs watching, but Scream 3 is on, so they can have it.
We've been preempted.
Hard to compete with that.
Yeah. Anyways, my question is, do you guys have any nieces, nephews, children of your own?
I have 2 stepkids.
2 stepkids?
I have nieces.
You have nieces. Okay, my question is
you got?
to you guys. What do you tell a small child, say, under the age of 10? How do you explain what happened
I have a good one for
to
that.
Grandpa when he died?
For Grandpa when he dies.
Yeah, Grandpa, and actually we had a couple of deaths real close, within a week. A real close friend of the family, and then Grandpa.
Oh, we're sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and as much as I hated saying it, it was really comforting to tell them that they're in heaven. They went to heaven, even though I don't believe it. I even found myself picturing that and the whole, the peaceful thing going on, even though I know.
And that's natural. That is so natural.
On the other hand, I think you're not necessarily doing them a favor by lying to them, because later.
Or to myself.
Right.
But it's natural that, you're in an emotionally distraught state.
Sure.
And I think Carl Sagan.
And of course, that is exactly when religions go after people.
Yeah. But
absolutely.
Yeah, but Carl Sagan points out in Demon Haunted World that, before he himself died, and he's like, to the day that he had written that book as an older man, he constantly thinks about his late parents, hears their voice many times, he remembers them, and
has dreams about them.
Yeah, would he like to see them again someday? Of course. That's just, it's humans being human when you do that, and we have that side to us, and there's nothing wrong with that.
So what would your explanation be to a small child?
I think it's important to make clear that people achieve kind of a limited immortality through memories.
Right.
The concept of them, even if not their physical self, continues on.
Right.
But as far as explaining things to children in general, there's a great kids book that I found. Can I name a book?
You can name a book. You can't tell her to go buy it.
Yeah, okay. Well, don't go buy this.
I don't know if you should say that either, but go ahead.
It's called Just Pretend by Dan Barker.
Just Pretend?
Yeah, and it's pretty good explaining on a children's level why people believe in gods and sort of comparing it to Santa Claus, which is easy for kids to understand.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a real good idea.
And I haven't been in that situation where I had to explain this to a small child, and so of course I'm not sure what I'd come up with.
Yeah.
But
it's tough.
But what I try to tell people around me, because someday I may be on my deathbed, right, and there'll be people in the position of taking advantage of my death to promote certain religious beliefs that I find ludicrous, is I would hate for the end of my life, right? At the end of my life, I would hate to suddenly embrace some superstitious nonsense just because I was afraid.
Right.
That would be the ultimate failure of my life if it ended that way. And so if I had a grandfather who died and or a father who died who was an atheist, which I don't, and a son or daughter to explain that to, I would say, look, they did not believe they were going anywhere, and I think out of respect for them, we shouldn't be making up some story that they did.
Right.
Right.
Or having it at a certain church with a certain person.
I heard a family story that says that my great-grandfather on his deathbed was reading Bertrand Russell.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not being a father or an uncle, I can only just give a theoretical answer to your question, but I would suggest that maybe it could be a good opportunity while they're at a young age to just go ahead and talk to them about life and death and just the natural cycle. It's like when you have a child and a pet dies. You know how attached children get to. I mean, well, me, I'm so attached to my dog. It's gonna be devastating when she dies. So, but you understand that there's a time. Your pet is with you for a certain amount of time, and then it's time for them to go away at a certain point. And that's a wonderful.
You want to know where do they go away to? That's the question that kids ask you. They ask you tough questions. Where are they? Where did they go?
Well, it is a tough question.
As Russell said,
where does a candle flame go when you blow it out, or where do the people go when you turn off the TV?
Yeah. I think maybe
little kids, they might literally want to know where the body is.
Yeah.
That's true too.
They know Grandpa's there not because his spirit is wandering around, because they see Grandpa.
I have a suggestion. Do as Russell said. Just tell them, look, as long as you remember them and think about them, they're always with you.
Right.
That could be a thing to say.
Yeah.
That is.
Again, that's true.
That is true. It is true, and that is what has been said. But it's hard when you go to a funeral and the family minister, supposed family minister who they haven't gone to church in years and years and years, but then all of a sudden there's a minister there, and he's saying things right out of the Bible, and they're confused, and they're telling them they're in heaven and the eternal peace and all this other crap.
Right. Yeah. Not to pry in your personal business, but were the relatives that you just had pass away? Were they? Okay. Obviously, you're not religious. Were they?
No.
Were they religious?
Our family has never been go to church every Sunday, but we were kind of raised Catholic.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Right.
We went till we were 10.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I know that if you really, there's. When it's families, it can be a big headache, but I know that it's possible to get, I guess, a secular service if you wanted one. But
absolutely. There's ways. There's lots of options for services. I know that, and when and if I have control, like over my husband or my children's services, God forbid, but God forbid. I love saying that.
Figure of speech. Go ahead.
That's the way I would do it. It would have nothing to do with religion. It would be, sort of like when people don't get married in church. You can have an outdoor wedding.
My wedding was a secular wedding.
When my stepkids go to get dragged to church by somebody or other, which they do because their real father has relatives who like to take them there, I don't necessarily flat out contradict them and say they're wrong, but just say, well, some people believe such and such, and here's why they might believe that, and here's what we think. And I assume that as they get older, they'll start thinking about these questions more seriously for themselves.
They do. I did let my children try out churches on their own. I've never been one to push my beliefs on anyone, including my children.
How old are your kids?
15, 13, and 3.
Oh, really? 15 and 13?
Okay. Yeah, and so they've tried out churches, they've gone to youth group. The thing that clinched it with them is they flat out told them, since I don't go to church, I would burn in hell.
Yeah, this whole weird...
See ya.
Right. Yeah.
And that was it for them.
This whole weird backwards... our whole show last week was about this. You were here, Russell.
Yes.
This weird concept, this weird way in which the most devout Christians have accepted this notion of an omnibenevolent, this all-loving God who will yet sentence you to eternal torture if you choose not to join his fan club. And we had a Christian, we had a Christian actually call last week and say this to us. Paul Wilson was our guest, and he was really grilling the guy, and as he usually does. And he said, "Look, do you think Hitler was a bad guy for torturing people?" Yes. Do you think Stalin was a bad guy for torturing people? Yes. So why is it okay for God to torture people? Because he's God.
Yeah.
That's the answer we got. And it's
because
just...
I said so.
Yeah. It's just really, really strange.
I'm sorry.
I pretty much finished. I was just saying the strange kind of pretzel twisted morality that they have defined for themselves.
It really is sad, and as far as I'm concerned, the only God in my house is me.
Yeah. Your 13 and 15-year-old kids, ma'am?
Yeah.
Your 13 and 15-year-old kids might be old enough to appreciate some of the research that's being conducted right now into human life extension.
Oh, God.
That it may well be that your kids will live to be hundreds or thousands of years old.
Would you want to?
Oh, heck yeah.
You
I'm
would
ready to
really?
sign up. Absolutely.
I'm not sold.
The idea that life gets like rotten and you get sick of it really has a lot to do with like the breakdown of our bodies as we get older and our loss of the ability to do things. These technologies would keep people, at their physical peak forever. All right? I mean, barring accidents. So that is one thing to say to children who are afraid of death, is that they might not have to face it.
But at the same, I mean, it's still not a definite thing.
No, that's not at all a definite thing. But if you want to not die, if you think death is a nasty, scary thing, the thing to do is support research into human life extension. That is the thing to do.
What I'm
right?
most tired
Unfortunately, it's too late for Grandma and Grandpa. That's the thing.
I don't know if I can handle grocery clerks for 1,000 years.
Or the IRS.
Yeah, the IRS.
good.
There's things that you just, you're like, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah, sure. Well,
Cindy, do you want to take the Bible quiz?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really, no.
Anyway,
right.
check out that book.
I don't want to hear scripture from anyone, including you guys.
All right. Check out that book, Dan Barker, Just Pretend. I don't know if you can find it in bookstores, but it's definitely on Amazon. That's where I got it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for your call, Cindy.
And, you're invited to the bagel shop.
Oh, yeah, let's add that. The bagel shop meetings for the atheist community of Austin every Sunday morning at
right after the show.
10:30, right after this show, at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop, 307 West 5th Street, open to all atheists and atheist-friendly people. They're not a place for Christians or other religionists, because we had an Islamic guy one time show up. They're not a place for people to come and try to convince us to join their religion. You can do that right here on our show.
Yeah, and I think Vic has walked in here to chide you for mentioning Amazon.com. I don't think that was a kosher thing to do.
All he did was tell them where they could find it if they wanted.
Well, it's such a tricky little rule.
Let's go to Harold.
Harold.
Harold?
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Harold. How are you, man?
Pretty good. I have a couple questions for y'all.
Okay.
I just wanted to know, when you were talking about, y'all were speaking of, I guess, death or whatnot. In your belief or whatnot of being an atheist, where do you feel that you would go then? I haven't been listening to your show all morning, so I don't know if you've already talked about this or whatnot.
We think that human consciousness is a process that happens in our brains, and not some kind of separate supernatural soul that inhabits our bodies and can go somewhere when we die. So to ask us where we think we go, that question doesn't make any sense to us. What we would say is, what happens to us upon death is that the process that is our consciousness stops happening.
Okay, but you never have. Okay, well, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Since you never have died, I assume.
Not yet.
True.
I guess that would be my question. Since you never have died.
Yeah.
How could you say, whether that's true or not?
Well, the thing about religion is, nobody's come back from the dead to confirm the existence of heaven either.
Which is very true.
What we can do, of course, is observe people who have died and demonstrate that, like, the electrical impulses in their brains have stopped.
Okay.
And one analogy that I like to use, have you ever been using a computer and typed up a long letter and then you got a power loss and lost everything you wrote?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody has. Well, the letter was containing a whole bunch of good thoughts and ideas, but when the electrical activity in the computer stopped and you forgot to save it, all those things disappeared. That doesn't mean the computer's gone. I mean, the physical parts that made it up are still there, but the concepts that were involved stopped along with the electrical impulses.
And another answer to your question of how can we know is, well, we can look at what life is, how bodies work, right? And there's just no evidence that any outside supernatural force is required to explain life. Not that we absolutely have explained everything, but we're closing in on explaining just about everything about life and neuroscience.
Yeah.
And
having decoded the genome.
And there's just nothing in the process that like hits a brick wall and says, well, this can't be the explanation unless some kind of supernatural soul comes in and picks it up from here to make life work. It's just not necessary.
Okay.
And the thing you do with unnecessary hypotheses is you dispense with them.
Okay.
Until they're proved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody ever on an MRI scan one day finds a soul, it'll be the greatest discovery of the age. And that's one day.
Yeah.
One day, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe
It's just the odds are looking slimmer and slimmer all the time as the need for such a thing diminishes, because we learn more about how life operates by natural principles.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more question.
Okay.
In reference to thinking about the theory of that there is a God, wouldn't it be more, how would you say, feasible in a argument's sake to just think that there is one, rather than not thinking that at all? And then if there is a heaven or a hell, and when it becomes that he comes back, then you're already there. You don't have to go to hell.
That's Pascal's wager again.
Would you like to
which
take
I covered
Pascal's
a
wager?
while ago.
That you're quoting an argument that is known as Pascal's wager because Pascal was this mathematician
Right.
who came up with this thing, right? He said, well, if you believe and he doesn't exist, you've lost nothing, but if you don't believe and he does exist, you've lost everything, so you may as well go ahead and believe.
Correct.
Right? No, that's utter nonsense. Do you want to take this, or should I follow through?
I remember there were 3 arguments I brought up why that doesn't work, but the main
biggest
point was, if you believe that, then there's nothing to stop you from believing any silly thing that comes along. I mean, first of all, you got a problem with
if there's a threat involved in not believing it.
Yeah, you've got to choose between all the different variations of religions. I mean,
right. If somebody quoted Pascal's wager at you and then said God is actually the Egyptian god Osiris,
right,
and if you don't believe in Osiris, you're tormented forever. But if you do believe in him, you get to go to his afterlife. Right?
Okay.
Then Pascal's wager would work for Osiris. Okay. And since it would work for any god you can possibly imagine, it really works for none of them.
Yeah, okay? And there are some
because
religions
any one of those gods
could
could conceivably fry you forever for believing the wrong one.
There are some religions where you could actually be worse off believing in the Christian God than just going ahead and being an atheist.
Okay. But another problem, I think, is just, well, maybe it was pointed out by you guys, it's just that it's an argument that just asks you to be intellectually dishonest. Okay, like I can't just wake up one morning and decide. It asks you to just go ahead and believe in something.
But you're on to another one of the arguments. Which actually you could do that. You could force yourself to say, yeah, sure, what the hell, right? You could, but what would you say about any god who would set up a rule where, if you believe in me, even if you just said, oh, what the hell, you get to go to paradise forever. But if you don't believe in me, because you're actually concerned about having good reasons and not just threats, right? He would send that person to hell forever. Okay?
This is like that's just a bad, could be tricked.
That's a bad god. I mean, a god who would let you in just for doing this like cost-benefit analysis and saying, sure, what the hell? That's not a person who's exhibiting any like moral any moral stance that earned him the right to eternal heaven, right? That's just some guy going after what's in it for him. And that can't possibly be a valid basis for deciding who gets into heaven and who doesn't. And there's a third one, and the third argument was in my head just a second ago.
Well, it's just asking you to go ahead and commit 100% to a belief in something that probably isn't true, which is the intellectual dishonesty part of it. I can't just wake up one morning and decide, okay, I'm going to believe in the Easter Bunny.
Apparently.
Well, I can, but I would be being dishonest with myself.
Right.
I can't just wake up one morning and say, I'll believe in the Easter Bunny today.
And that's the other thing, is if you decide to accept Pascal's wager, right, the premise of Pascal's wager is it costs you nothing to go ahead and believe. But if it's not true, if there isn't a God, and you go ahead and believe, it did cost you something. It cost you that part of your rational functions, okay, that would have kept you from believing a thing that wasn't true. And everything that goes with that, okay? Any amount of time that you spend worshiping a God that doesn't exist is wasted time. Yeah. Any amount of time you spend, dithering because you're not sure whether to proceed or not, because you're not sure how your God feels about it, instead of like looking at the things that you do know about the situation and making the best decision you can based on the facts and not factoring in this imaginary God, that's wasted time. So it's not true that you would lose nothing if you believed in God, but he didn't exist.
And it doesn't.
You would lose your a portion of your own rational faculties, and you would lose a portion of the time in your own life, which, if there's no God, that life is all you've got.
Yeah, and it's not just the personal cost to you in intellectual integrity and wasted time. Think about the Crusades. Think about the.
Well, there's that too.
Think about the burnings of witches at the stake. Think of all the people who've been shot, hanged, and maimed, and tortured, and incinerated alive because they didn't believe in this God. Then what's the cost? You know, the whole idea, it costs you nothing to believe. You know, well, I think that no, it's cost millions and millions of lives and untold amounts of human suffering throughout the ages. So it's yeah, not a good reason.
Anything else, Harold?
Yeah, I have one more quick question.
Okay, sorry for giving you long answers to your quick questions here.
Yeah. If that's so or whatnot about that there is no God or whatever, all these different denominations of Christianity or any religion.
Yeah.
Tell me, what would then are all these people faking, or is it that they're? No. I mean, can you give me some insight on that, or what you're?
Okay, it depends what people you're talking about. I mean, if you're talking about people that go to church, right? Well, they're doing a perfectly natural human thing, which is finding a big group that they can feel part of and getting what they can out of that socially, right? That's easy to understand. If you're talking about people who go to church and claim to have had religious experiences, right? My mom is one of these people. We're not denying that people have experienced sensations which they identify as, contacts with some supernatural powers.
Okay.
But we would say that those experiences have natural causes. They're neurological. They're not supernatural. In fact, there is a scientist in Canada. I saw a story about this guy.
Oh, yeah, with the helmet.
Yeah, he's got a helmet he can put on you and activate certain portions of your brain by sending electrical signals in and get you to feel the sensation of the presence of supernatural forces. Okay, which sort of tends to support our views on that.
It has to do
if
with
you're asking about people who are the Yeah, I'm sorry. I've got a whole thing I'm doing here.
I apologize.
If you're asking about the people who are running the churches, you're talking about the ministers, well, they were raised as part of these groups, and they got what they could socially out of it, and they don't have sufficient reason to question it. So, and the presence of so many people going to these churches seems to support their belief that it's probably true. And so I don't think they're necessarily faking anything when they step in, eventually and become leaders in those things. I just think they're wrong.
Yeah.
But if you go all the way back to the original people, right, like people who start religious groups, well, what do we call people who start new religions now? We call them cult leaders. And a cult is essentially a religion that just hasn't caught on yet. It's a small religion that people look at and go, ugh, because it doesn't seem normal, because it's so small and it's so new and it's so weird.
But they are immensely popular among the few people who hold.
But they're immensely popular among those few people. Now, are cult leaders faking? I think some of them probably really are. I think some cult leaders just make stuff up because they enjoy having followers.
L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard, excellent example. The guy that started Scientology. Science fiction writer decided that he would start a religion.
Yeah.
And to make money, and he did. He made a whole lot of money. And he's dead now, and that religion is still barreling along. So some of them, I think, clearly are just lying. Are some of them crazy? Yeah, I think that's probably true too. The cult leader at Heaven's Gate, the guys that killed themselves so they could go visit the space aliens.
Marshall Applewhite.
That guy, I think he was crazy. I think he really believed that stuff, and I think he was nuts. Huh?
The guy who started Heaven's Gate, also known as Dope.
No. And some people that start new religions, I think, are people who have had what they interpret as supernatural experiences. They're interpreting naturalistic phenomenon that way, and they're trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
So those would, I think I hope that answered your question.
Although there are some people who are well within the confines of this well-established, non-cultish anymore religion called Christianity, who I think are overt charlatans. You have people like Bob Larson and Benny Hinn, who I think are just showmen.
Was Bob Larson the guy that got debunked by, debunked by Randy?
Might have been. I mean, but I mean, you could. I mean, if you have like two brain cells rubbed together and you just watch Bob Larson's show, it's so obviously what's going on.
There was a faith healer who does essentially the same thing Benny Hinn does now.
No, Bob Larson is the guy who thinks he exorcises demons.
Okay. Well, there was this guy that was doing a thing like Benny Hinn, and this skeptic went in there with like a radio, with radio equipment, and discovered that the ushers were collecting medical information on the people in the audience as they brought them in, and then radioing it to the guy, to the evangelist, so then he could like miraculously know you're suffering from cancer.
Okay.
So there are some people who are just outright charlatans, even people in not new religions, people in Christianity.
Okay. Let me get one of those Bible quizzes, and I'll go ahead and...
okay, give a Bible quiz question.
Let's see, what do we got here?
What has good, I think.
Okay, what has God done in the past to children who make fun of unattractive people? Is it A, nothing, because God understands the maturity and indiscretions of toddlers? B, he made them feel guilty about their taunting, inducing them to apologize and repent? C, he sent an angel to tell them all of us have characteristics that others find unattractive. Or D, he sent bears to maul the children to death.
For making fun of unattractive people, what's the punishment according to the Bible?
Oh, D.
You are correct.
That's correct.
You are correct.
42 bears tore apart the children.
No, 2 bears tore apart.
Two bears. That's right. I got that wrong last time. 2 bears tore apart the 42 children for making fun of the prophet Elijah because he was bald.
2 Kings 2:20.
Well done. You know your Bible, sir.
Bravo.
Thank you very much for your call.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, let's go to Jim. Jim? You there, Jim?
Jim may have given up on us.
Looks like he's online. Looks like I got him. Hi, Jim.
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah?
Yeah, ironically.
There's a bullfrog.
Okay, we got Jim on our whiteboard here. That's okay. What can we do for you, Jeremiah?
Well, I was just curious to know if y'all have ever read anything by John Milton.
John Milton.
Paradise Lost.
Paradise Lost.
Paradise Regained.
Paradise Regained.
It's. I have to admit, for me, it's one of those great classics like War and Peace and things like that you grow up and you've heard of, but I've never actually curled up with it and tried to read it, I'm afraid.
Paradise Lost? Nope, me neither.
Y'all would find that terribly interesting.
Sure.
It basically portrays Satan as a protagonist in the way that he was rejected from heaven. But I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. It's like 1,100 pages of poetry. It's either mind bludgeoning or absolutely incredible.
Yeah, if you got to be in the mood, I guess.
I want to make sure you realize that being atheist generally doesn't mean that you're Satanist.
Yeah, we're not Satanists. We don't believe in him either. Yeah. For the other callers out there, it might be important to make that clear.
Yeah, okay. I know you don't necessarily think that.
I
mean, atheists tend not to believe in any supernatural thing, and that includes Satan. So when people say, "Oh, you're atheist, you worship the devil," that's just ridiculous.
I think that if Christianity was to just go away, there'd be one thing I'd miss, and the thing is, Christianity is a great fountain of ideas for horror stories, for fiction. Okay, I mean, some of the greatest, coolest horror movies are based on Christian mythology, and I'd be sad to see that go.
End of Days was pretty lousy.
I only said some. Not every movie based on Christian mythology.
And I've always thought.
I mean, there was Bible Code.
Kind of overrated.
What was it called?
Omega Code.
The
Omega Code.
It was a big stinker.
Yeah, that movie makes me miss Mystery Science Theater.
Anyway,
but if who knows, maybe someday we'll actually, one of us will see fit to curl up with 1,000 pages of poetry and read Paradise Lost. I mean, it sounds like it'd be fun. I've always wanted to read Dante's Inferno too, but
I read it.
You did?
Yep.
Y'all come across as very educated people when it comes to this matter. That's why y'all are really, really good at debating it.
Well, we try.
I think it would just for kicks, it would be really cool, because what you'll realize if you ever sit in on any sort of religious session is that a lot of these people will quote things from Paradise Lost as if it's coming from the Bible, and it's really, really incorrect as far as incorrect could get from Christianity. I mean, it's it's a good book, and it doesn't like denounce God.
Oh, yeah.
It just really, it changes the perspective on it. But to see these people who claim to be very educated, misusing literature. I mean,
Right.
We had a guy call the show last.
Well, we know they misuse literature. It's called the Bible.
Yeah.
Right.
We had a guy call the show last weekend who started haranguing us and telling us that if only we would read the U.S. Constitution, we would realize that America was founded as a Christian nation. And then in an effort to back up his point, he started quoting from the Declaration of Independence. So, yeah, I mean, there's, yeah.
Typical.
Yeah. So, yeah, we know that they're not the greatest researchers in the world.
Okay.
You know.
Well, another question I had, and I didn't realize this until I started watching the show this morning. Y'all meet every Sunday morning at a bagel shop.
That's right.
Is that just a thing where y'all just like get together and
Just to
hang
hang
out as friends?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not any sort of like...
There is a little bit of group business that gets done, but it's very minimal.
Yeah, and we have parties too.
Yeah, and we have parties, and we go to movies together, and we have our Godless Gamers group that gets together to play role-playing games and board games. So, yeah, it's a social group.
Yeah, it's just,
Okay, so
just to hang out for...
much like a congregation is...
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
there's no service.
Yeah, we don't do
Though
altar
there are
calls.
atheist churches. There are atheist churches. The North Texas Church of Free Thought is a atheist group on a church-type model, where they have a speaker who gets up and basically exhorts people to be rational and not believe things just cause.
Yeah.
And they do songs and all the church kind of stuff, but they're non-believers.
Yeah, I'm not entirely comfortable.
Yeah,
That's the whole thing.
It's an interesting experiment, and I'll be, I'm watching the way it turns out. The idea is catching on, though. There's another one in California, and one just started in Houston.
And the one in Dallas has a lot more members than our group does.
Yeah.
A few hundred members.
So
What
there's
could
some.
happen with that, though, is that people will run amok with it like they have with religion, and pretty soon you'll just get people who want to be in a position of power.
Well, that's a concern that I have. That's what my personal reason for being uncomfortable with it is. What we'll start seeing is a dogmatic approach to skepticism, which I think is every bit as wrong as dogmatic approach to theism or supernaturalism.
Yeah.
I think people should be open to claims as long as they are presented with credible evidence for claims, and you shouldn't just be the stereotype of the completely closed-minded individual who just doesn't want to hear anything he doesn't want to hear.
Right. I should mention, another thing that happens at our meetings is a lot of deep philosophical and scientific discussion.
And
it's not just a bunch of people like, hey, did you believe in God today? No, I didn't. Did you? No. It's not like that. It's like, hey, did you hear the coolest things about signals back from the near-Earth asteroid probe, and about the new Mars missions, and what about this view of religion? Does this make any kind of sense? No, here's the arguments against that,
Yeah, a lot of people in our group are like have computer science degrees or are physicists or something, or things along those lines.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just talk about movies and drinking beer and chicks. So it's whatever you're interested in.
Okay?
Okay.
Thanks for calling, Jeremiah. Come on down if you like.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
If he's an unbeliever.
If you're an unbeliever, or a atheist-friendly person. Okay, that's once again that's 10:30 right after the show at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop, 307 West 5th Street, for the Atheist Community of Austin weekly meeting. I'm going to do we got more. The lines are full, but I want to do a quick update on on our Rapture report. We have another Rapture coming due today.
Oh boy.
This is begin preparations for the Battle of Armageddon. Ephraim reinterprets the book of Daniel for the umpteenth time and arrives at a timeline for the last days. Unfortunately, this timeline calls for the Rapture to occur in March. Oh, actually, okay, so it's Rapture was supposed to have occurred in March, and we were supposed to get Armageddon today. So maybe 3 or 4 people disappeared and nobody put it together. And we might still get the Armageddon. So everybody keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah.
Also today, coming due, is Marilyn Aggie's Rapture prediction number 10. This is a woman who keeps predicting them, and when they fail, predicting them again. After yet another spectacular failure, she's reinterpreting the scriptures and grasping at new straws. There's no stopping a truly determined doomsayer. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those failed, because if we're not here next week because there was Armageddon, why then, you know, I'll be burning in hell going, shucks darn, I called that wrong.
Who is Marilyn Egg? Is she just this woman
I don't know.
who refuses to renew her
last name sounds familiar, but I don't know if she's, I don't know who she is. I don't know.
She needs to renew her Librium prescription.
Also, we got some more announcements that I want to quick get out. We still have the "We don't hate you, we just think you're wrong" buttons. Have you handed any of those out yet?
I haven't yet.
We don't actually get identified that often, but if you see either me or Martin in public and come up and say, "Hi, you watch the show," we will offer you a "We don't hate you, we just think you're wrong" button. That's our show's motto.
Yeah. That's, you know, if you like the show and you're a fan of the show.
If you don't like the show, we'll still offer you the button.
Yeah.
You don't have to take it. On September 10, American Atheists will be hosting the Cowtown Regional Atheist Meet in Fort Worth.
Cram.
You can find more information on www.atheists.org.
Rowan Weiner from our
Rowan Weiner, a member of the Atheist Community of Austin, will be up there speaking. A Center for Inquiry course to be offered in Austin, the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, and the Council for Secular Humanism will be offering a class entitled The Scientific Examination of the Bible, Paul, Jesus, and the Facts at the Omni Austin Hotel South Park on September 22 to 24. There is a price. And any instances of slurs, defamation, or discrimination against atheists or other non-believers in the U.S. media can now be reported to the National Atheist Ombuds by emailing ombuds@atheism.org. That's ombuds, O-M-B-U-D-S. And that word means something, but I just think it's so dumb sounding.
Yeah. An ombudsman is a mediator in a dispute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please remember to include as many details as possible and a news source where applicable. Incidents will be reported to participating national and local non-theist organizations who have agreed to distribute press releases regarding the reported subject matter. Okay, that's that. And we did the Rapture report, and I got some other stuff, but this can wait.
Yeah.
Let's go to more calls. We have Steve.
Hey.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi.
People
you're
might
back.
as well hang up now.
Oh, it's that Steve. What's up, man?
How you doing?
Doing great. And I remember Martin. I can't remember the guy on the right.
Russell.
That's Russell.
How you guys
How you doing?
We're doing good. How are you, Steve?
Wonderful. I tried a couple times. I couldn't get through last Sunday, but
Oh, that's right. We're
anyhow,
back to
what evidence would you guys need to authenticate in your mind that God does exist?
Martin.
Okay. I believe that there is a quote. There is a Bible verse that says something along the lines of, you know, if you have faith in sufficient supply or something, nothing will be impossible to you. And then it goes on to talk about moving mountains. I think I mentioned on the show one day, if I were hanging out in the wilderness with a Christian, and he said something like, "Hey, Martin, watch this," and prayed or did a thing, and one of the Rocky Mountains uprooted itself and traveled about 6 miles to any one direction and planted itself back in the ground, I'd be rather impressed by that. I would at least be willing to entertain that there's some sort of supernatural force in the universe at work. The idea is, if the concept of the Christian God is of an omniscient, omnipotent, omnibenevolent being, that's a pretty powerful being. I would think of the being possessed of those powers should be able to come up with something that would at least reveal his existence unambiguously. Wouldn't necessarily force you to worship him, but you know, it would be pretty easy for a being with those degrees of powers to, you know, to persuade me of his existence.
Yeah. How about you, Jeff?
I want to re-emphasize Martin's mention of supernatural powers, okay? Until I see some evidence that there's any kind of supernatural powers at all, it's not necessary to even begin to ask me about God, okay? If there's nothing supernatural, if there's just natural laws, then obviously God's out of the question, okay? So, and I could get started down that road, right? By having it prove to me that there are supernatural powers much more easily than being convinced all the way from, you know, my current viewpoint to God at the other end of the spectrum in one jump. I'm not sure what it would take to get me to make that leap, but then I'm not omniscient, and your God supposedly is. So I think he could think of something. there's all kinds of ways you can test psychic powers in laboratory conditions and find out if there's anything happening. And as far as I know, there is no compelling evidence that there's anything supernatural. Russell?
I like what Martin said. I'll just stick with that.
Okay.
Okay, Russell. On your left arm, you have a watch.
He's picking.
Oh,
he's
here we
picking
go.
on me because I didn't.
You have a
propose-
watch that you can see it. I see the watch there.
Is this the Watchmaker argument?
Let him go.
Okay. Shoot.
So you have a watch there on your left arm. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a watch.
And you look at that watch and you know the complexity of that watch, which is really not too complex. Would you look at that watch and say that that watch happened without a creator?
Actually, you know, it's interesting that you bring this up because, I mean, the fact is that man-made objects do evolve. I mean, if you go back through the history of timekeeping, I mean, did the person who made this watch just suddenly come up with an idea and say, hey, I'm going to put a bunch of springs together in this particular configuration and slap a plate of glass over them and suddenly I'll have a timekeeping device?
Yeah, but you're missing the point.
What you drag back through, I mean, as you drag it back through the centuries, you see that the concept of timekeeping and the invention of this watch actually got stretched out over a very long period of time. You had sundials, and then you had like, analog watches, and then gradually you got digital watches with more and more fancy features. What?
Hourglasses.
Hourglasses. Hourglasses.
But the question
Forgot
is,
hourglasses.
The question is, do you, Russell, think looking at that watch today, however you want to say it got here, was done by a creator? Somebody created that watch, put it all together.
Now, you can't dodge the question by saying, however you say it got here, because if we know that it got here through a process of development and not magically at the snap of some giant space pixie's fingers, well, then the rest of your question is irrelevant.
No, the point is...
But if I came across this watch lying on a beach, then I would look at the watch and I would say, this watch doesn't look anything like this beach, which obviously occurred naturally. So it's probably it looks similar to the things which in my experience have been created by people, because it doesn't look anything like this natural, uncreated beach.
So you would agree that the watch has a creator?
Yes, because we live in an industrial...
Let him go. Let him go and hang himself.
So you agree that the watch has a creator and its complexity, how simple it is, when you compare it to the human eye, and yet you look at the human eye and you say, oh, well, it didn't have a creator.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
what? Now, wait a minute.
Okay.
First of all, there is an excellent analysis of the development of the eye by charting a route via known types of eyes in progressively more primitive creatures in Richard Dawkins' new book, Climbing Mount Improbable.
That's like 1997.
Secondly, there are obvious flaws in the design of the human eye that didn't have to be there, that any omniscient being would not have made by accident. The big one is that our photocells are put in backward. Our eyes function in spite of the fact that the nerves attaching to them wrap around in front of the photoreceptor and interfere with some of the reception of light. And we know it doesn't have to be like that because squids have eyes where the photoreceptors are oriented more efficiently. So it is not true that you can look at an eye and say, that's obviously created. Certainly not by an omnipotent being. Secondly, watches, you know one thing I know about my watch? This was not made by one guy, okay? No one guy collected the petroleum and distilled it into the rubber that makes the band and went out and dug up the ore and processed it into the metal plate on the back, or got sand and made it into glass for the little glass part here, and certainly no one guy designed the circuit and put all this stuff together, just this one right here like this. No one guy did that. What I know about created things is that creators are actually, generally, when you're talking about complex things, creators are teams of individuals with different specializations working together to make complex things. So at best, your argument, if it made any sense at all, at best it would be an argument for polytheism.
Well, that's a very good point.
Well, and another thing, I mean, is that in general, my experience of creators is that they actually have a process of things that they have to go through
and that's another good point. No,
they don't just say, "Let there be a watch."
No watchmaker I know of snaps his fingers and the material just comes into existence. Okay? We have no reason to think that any such thing can possibly happen.
Yeah.
Okay? What we have for creators is we have human beings, and we see how they work. They take pre-existing things, they beat on them. It takes them a long time. It takes many generations of creators to refine the ideas. It takes a great number of people to work together to make complex things, and that is what complex man-made things are like. The watchmaker argument simply makes no sense.
I disagree, but you guys feel that
You're free to disagree, Steve. You always have been.
so you guys look at this and you say there is no creator. So who do you feel that you're accountable to, other than the government?
Other than the government?
Other than the government and
It depends what
society
you're
and my
talking about.
friends.
Accountable for what? Just our behaviors?
If I was to bring some hot chick home tonight, I would be accountable to my wife, right? She is a person I've got a relationship with. We have commitments to one another, and that relationship means something to me, and so my accountability to her means something to me. Same thing goes for the government. I've got a relationship with my government, right? I live in this society where I am a contributing member, and my relationship with my government matters to me. So my accountability to my government matters to me. That is where accountability comes from. It does not come into existence because there's just the biggest, toughest tyrant around and what he says goes.
Well, look, guys, there's something called Father, and that is God the Father. And there's punishment.
I had a father, but he wasn't. He wasn't omnipotent.
We all are afraid of accepting the punishment for the things we do wrong.
Bullshit. And that is absolute
hey.
Okay, I'm sorry, my language. But that is completely ludicrous.
Yeah.
If I do something wrong, I accept the punishment.
Then why are you having a problem accepting when God punishes the people?
Because we don't believe in God.
Because there is I accept the punishment because you know what? I live in a society founded on principles like punishment fits the crime, right? Might does not make right, right? And we don't have what they call what is the word for that? For overly mean punishments?
Oh, cruel and unusual.
Cruel and unusual punishments. We don't have those things in my society. Your God has them all. Your God has cruel and unusual punishments. How is being turned to a pillar of salt for cruel and unusual punishment?
God?
Okay? How is being tormented forever for simply declining to believe something that hasn't been proven, right? How is that punishment fitting the crime?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, your God would, if he existed, okay, is an evil tyrant.
Jeff, do you have children?
An evil tyrant. That's why I object to that. If I lived under a government that was evil and tyrannical, I'd object to that.
Real quick, do you have children, Jeff?
No, I don't.
Martin?
I don't. No.
Russell?
Stepkids.
Okay. Well, if one of your stepkids walked up to you, I don't know how old they are, but let's say they slapped you in the face.
They would get very punished.
Let's say they, let's see.
Well, he probably wouldn't kill them.
No, let's try one of these. Let's say your child was unruly. Okay? You answer the question, Steve. What would you do if your child was unruly? Would you do nothing because you're loving and forgiving and don't believe in punishing? Would you give that child a mandatory timeout? Would you stone him to death? Or would you ground him and deprive him of his privileges? One of these is from your Bible.
I would have to look at the actual thing that the child had done and make a decision based on that. Now let me
He is stubborn and rebellious.
Hold on, guys.
He is stubborn and rebellious, will not obey your voice. He's a glutton and a drunkard. What would you do? Would you do nothing? Give him a mandatory timeout, stone him to death, or deprive him of his privileges?
Give me this verse, and next week I'll come back with the answer as to why that's separated as it is.
We'll tell you which one it is, Steve. This is the God you worship. You know what your God
Exodus
says?
21.
Stone that child to death.
Give me the verse.
Exodus 21:17.
Exodus 21.
And Exodus 21:15.
Write them all down, Steve. Deuteronomy 21.
Wait. Which one?
Deuteronomy 21, verses 20 and 21.
Okay.
Mark 7, verse 10, Exodus 21, verse 15, and Exodus 21, verse 17.
Okay.
That is the kind of authority you're telling people that we have to bow down to because this guy's a father. No, excuse me. Fathers do not punish their children for being rebellious by stoning them to death.
You don't understand the scriptures.
Oh, boy.
Okay, now I submit to you guys that atheism is a cult in your own definition.
Actually, we've got a minute and 10
explain,
seconds yet. But
okay, how? Just because we get together and talk about stuff?
Well, you guys stated that religion that has not caught on yet is a cult.
Yeah.
So how are we a religion?
Atheism's not a religion.
Oh,
Thanks for your call, Steve. We are out of time. You can call us back next week. I'm sorry, Steve. I had to cut you off. We are running out of time. Okay.
Steve just won't give up, will he?
That's amazing. That's amazing. God is our Father, and so we have to do whatever He says. Well, that it does make sense up until a point, but not when you get stoned to death for being unruly. Not when you get torn apart by bears for making fun of people that are bald.
Yeah.
Okay, it's utterly ridiculous.
Our whole episode last weekend was about this whole weird, twisted morality of Christianity, where they. And it underscores an interesting point that George Smith makes in his book, Atheism, A Case Against God. There is nothing that a Christian is willing to accept as evidence of their God's evil. They will explain it away and rationalize it and say, no, you don't understand the Scripture. Okay, well, what does stone him to death? I mean, what's so hard to understand about that?
This guy on Alt Atheism said in one of his letters, a Christian guy, after we talked about being moral, he said, most Christians are more moral than most atheists are more moral than Christians.